Outline main character Zane, a 9-year-old fourth grader who loves soccer and tag, often says, "I hate school. Homework is boring, and I wish I could just skip school and have fun all day." Luma, a small, glowing fox who guides Zane through a magical world. Ms. Rivera, Zane's patient teacher. Nana, Zane's grandmother, who gives him a special compass. Jaya and Omar, Zane's best friends who love outdoor games. Setting: Zane's school, classroom, and neighborhood park. The Learning Lands: Word Woods, Number Bridge, Science Windmill, History Hills, and Sky of Art. Forever Recess: a bright playground world that slowly loses color when no one learns or practices anything. Conflict: Zane thinks school is boring and homework is a waste of time, so he wishes to skip school and only play. The wish opens a doorway to Forever Recess, where Zane must use reading, math, science, and history, plus patience and practice, to get home and help his friends. Resolution: Zane discovers learning is useful and fun, and that hard work pays off. He returns home with a plan to balance homework and play, and he helps classmates find study tricks that make learning feel like an adventure. The story: Zane kicked a pebble all the way down the sidewalk after school, dribbling it like a soccer ball. The sun was warm, the grass smelled sweet, and the park called his name like a friendly whistle. "I hate school," he muttered, bouncing the pebble off the curb and catching it on his shoe. "Homework is boring. So hard to sit for long hours. I wish I could just skip school and have fun all day." Jaya and Omar were already at the park, racing each other to the swings. "Come on, Zane," they shouted. "Homework first," Nana called from the front porch. She had gray curls that bounced when she laughed and a smile that made you feel safe. "Just a little each day and you'll grow strong in the mind the way soccer grows your legs." Zane groaned. "But homework is boring." Nana walked down the steps and pressed something into his hand, a small brass compass with a glass face and a tiny arrow wobbling inside. "This belonged to your grandpa," she said. When you don't know where to go, hold it, breathe, and ask a real question. It doesn't always point north. Sometimes it points to what you need. Zane slipped the compass into his pocket. He stomped up to his room, dropped his backpack, and flopped on his bed. Pencil on his desk seemed to wink at him in the afternoon light. Compass was warm in his palm, like it had been sitting in sunshine. "I wish I could just skip school and have fun all day," he said again. No more worksheets, no more sitting forever. The compass arrow spun so fast it became a shiny circle. The air in his room rippled like heat above a grill. A bright line of light appeared around his door, as if someone had drawn it with a silver marker. The doorknob glowed. Zane sat up, heart thumping, and stood slowly. He touched the knob. Felt cool and tingly, like touching a bubble that didn't pop. When he opened the door, it didn't lead to the hallway. It opened onto a meadow of bouncing trampolines and twirling slides. A sign hung from two candy-striped poles: "Welcome to Forever Recess." "Whoa," Zane breathed. "Best." day. Ever. He stepped through. The sky was cotton candy pink with sleepy golden clouds. Kids laughed as they slid down rainbows and popped up again from soft foam pits. No one carried books. No one sat inside. Everywhere the air smelled like cut grass and orange slices. A tiny voice chimed near his sneaker. Careful where you step, big shoes. Zane looked down. A small fox with fur the color of candlelight stood on the path. Its ears were delicate and glowing at the tips, like they were holding tiny nightlights. Hi, Zane said. Are you real? As real as your wish, said the fox. I'm Luma. You're Zane. Your words opened the door. Awesome, said Zane. So here, nobody ever has homework? Luma's tail swished, painting bright swirls in the air that faded like fireflies. No homework. No lessons. Only play. But play without learning turns into the same level again and again. Colors fade if you stay too long. What do you mean? Luma pointed with her nose. A carousel spun nearby, but several horses were pale, like sketches waiting for color. Fun is wonderful, she said gently. But growth keeps fun shiny. If you want to go home or if you want the colors to stay, you'll need 4 sparks: curiosity, practice, patience, and courage. They're kept in the learning lands. Zane crossed his arms. Sounds like school. Adventure school, Luma said, whiskers twitching. The kind where a book is a map and a number is a stepping stone. Will you try? Zane glanced at the slides and swings. Even as he watched, a rainbow slide's red stripe faded to blush. He thought of Nana's compass warm in his pocket. Okay, he said, trying not to sigh. Where do we start? Word woods, said Luma, brightening. Follow me. They walked along a path of chalky footprints that glowed with each step. Trees with pages for leaves rustled ahead, whispering in soft crinkles. The word woods smelled like pencils and rain. Each tree bore wooden letters, growing like fruit with vowels shining like lanterns. At the forest's edge, a wooden gate stood locked. A sign on it read, "Say the way." Ugh, Zane said. A riddle? Read it out loud, Luma suggested. Sometimes your own voice turns on the light. Zane read the smaller letters beneath. To find the door that swings for you, choose the words that must be true. Below the sign were 4 options. I don't need directions. Words are clues. Guessing is faster. Read to understand. Zane smirked. Guessing is faster. He pressed that line. The gate chimed and stayed shut. One of the page leaf trees let a paper leaf drift down and land on Zane's shoulder. On it was a simple map of the gate with an arrow pointing to "Try again." Luma's ears glowed a little brighter. "Try noticing," she said. "What does the sign ask?" Zane took a breath. The compass warmed in his pocket, reminding him of Nana's voice ask a real question. "Which words must be true?" he said to himself. He looked again. Words are clues. Read to understand. He pressed both. The gate swung open with a sigh, like a book being opened for the first time. Inside, a path of sentences crossed a small stream. Each sentence was missing a word, and stones with words painted on them sat on the bank because after, before, but... "Ugh," Zane grumbled. "Grammar." Luma dipped a paw in the water. "Think of these like soccer passes. The right word moves the play forward." Zane crouched and read the first sentence. "I put on my helmet." He looked at the stones. "Before." He set the "before" stone in the blank, and a sturdy stepping stone appeared across the stream. The next said, "I was tired and trying." But another stone rose. By the time he placed the last stone, the path across was solid. He grinned despite himself. Felt like solving a puzzle in a game. A tree at the far side shook itself, dropping a glowing seed into Zane's hands. It was warm and hummed softly like a tiny engine. "Curiosity," Luma said. "You earned it by reading to understand." The seed melted into a patch that stitched itself onto Zane's backpack, a small lantern. "Okay," Zane said, feeling lighter. "What's next?" "Number Bridge," said Luma, and they hurried on. They reached a canyon where a rope bridge stretched across a gorge. The ropes were tied into knots, each knot labeled with a number. A sign read "Count with care" or "Bounce back to start." On the first rope, the knots were 2, 4, 6, 8. Easy. Zane stepped on 10, then 12. The bridge stayed still. The next rope had 5, 10, 15, 20. Another rope had 3, 6, 9, 12. "Skip counting," Zane said, hopping from knot to knot, his body moving the way it did when he dribbled the soccer ball through cones. This felt fun, like a physical song. Halfway across, the pattern changed. The knots read 7, 14, 21, and then the next one was blank. Zane hesitated. 7 times 4, he said, biting his lip. 28. He stepped where 28 should be. A knot popped up to meet his foot. He grinned. Ha! On the last rope, the knots weren't numbers at all. They were little pictures of pizza slices. The sign said fractions. The first knot showed one pizza cut into 2 pieces, one slice was shaded. 1/2. The next showed 1 out of 4 shaded 1/4. Then 3 out of 4 March 4th. Zane carefully stepped on the right knots to match the pattern. Half, quarter, 3/4 whole, and the bridge carried him safely across. A golden spark zipped toward him and tucked itself into his backpack as a patch shaped like a whistle. Practice, Luma said, delighted. You kept your pattern going. Zane wiped sweat from his forehead and laughed. Math that moves is way better. Math always moves, said Luma. Numbers are how we count steps to a goal. They hurried to a hill with a tall windmill whose blades hung still as sleeping dragonflies. The science windmill, whispered Luma. A sign on the fence read, "Make the wind work for you." On a table lay paper, sticks, string, and tape. Zane frowned. What do I do? Blow on it. Experiment, said Luma. Ask, try, notice, adjust. Zane thought about the kites at the park and how they lifted when the angle was right. He folded the paper into a diamond, taped sticks like a cross, and tied the string. He ran against the breeze, but nothing happened. Kite flopped like a tired fish. He said. He added a tail of ribbon to stabilize it and tilted the leading edge. The next time he ran, the kite tugged the string. He let it climb, feeling the pull in his hands like the wind was shaking hands with him. The windmill blade shivered, then turned slowly. Faster. Faster. The whole tower hummed, and nearby, small lights blinked on, lamps that reminded Zane of fireflies learning to shine. That's it. Luma barked happily. You observed, changed one thing at a time, and tried again. The wind plucked a silver spark from the sky and dropped it into Zane's backpack, stitching a patch shaped like a gear. Patience. By now, Zane noticed something else. The colors in Forever Recess had brightened where he walked. A swing seat turned from dull gray back to deep blue as he passed. They climbed toward the History Hills. Path wound past murals. People, farmers with sun hats, firefighters rolling hoses, nurses with stethoscopes, engineers sketching bridges, coaches drawing plays. As Zane moved, the murals spoke in low, friendly voices. I use reading to understand the weather, said the farmer, pointing at a chart of clouds. I use math to measure the ladder length, said the firefighter, rolling a tape measure. I use science to test medicine, said the nurse, checking a chart. I use history to remember what worked before, said the coach, tapping an old playbook. A stone arch stood at the top of the hill with pictures etched along it in the wrong order: a seed, a sprout, a flower, and a packet of seeds. A sign read, "Put time in order." Zane rearranged the stones: seed packet, seed, sprout, flower, and the arch glowed like morning. A warm spark floated down and embroidered a patch on his backpack in the shape of a small heart with a tiny clock in the center. Courage. Because trying again when you feel stuck is brave, Luma said softly. Zane looked out over Forever Recess from the top of the hill. The far edge where slides coiled and seesaws bounced. He saw something that made his chest tighten. Two kids he knew, Jaya and Omar, were waving at him. But their clothes looked faded, and the slide they stood on was almost colorless. Zane, Jaya called. Her voice sounded like it was coming through a rainy window. It's fun here, but everything repeats. We keep racing the same race. Luma's tail drooped. When no one learns, time loops here. People forget to be curious and the world loses color. How do we help them? Zane asked. Use your sparks, said Luma. They're not just pretty patches. They're tools. Zane ran down the hill, the compass bouncing in his pocket, his backpack warm on his shoulders. A sign near Jaya and Omar read to unlock the way home, complete the challenge of balance. Balance, Zane panted. Like standing on one foot? Like this, said Luma. She pointed to a board that flipped like a seesaw. One side read play. The other side read practice. Under it, plan your time. Try a small, steady pattern. Zane thought about how he hated sitting for long hours. Maybe, he thought, I don't need long hours. Maybe I need little steps that repeat. He remembered how skip counting helped him cross the number bridge. Let's try 10, 10, 10, 10, he murmured. 10 minutes of homework, then 5 minutes of play, repeat. He pulled a notebook out of his backpack. The lantern patch glowed, helping him read the directions clearly. Do page 32, problems 1 to 8, he read. Okay. Here? Now, Omar said, confused. I think so, Zane said. We'll do a little, then play a little. Like any good game. They set a timer stone for 10 minutes. Zane did 2 math problems. He got one wrong. The whistle patch glowed and he tried again, noticing his mistake. He had added instead of multiplied. He corrected it. The gear patch hummed with his patience. For 10 minutes, they played tag around the swings for 5 minutes, laughing. They returned for the next 10 minutes. Zane read a short passage about butterflies and answered a question. The lantern patch warmed his chest, and the words made sense, like someone had cleaned a foggy window. The heart clock patch shone when he felt like giving up but kept going. They repeated 10 and 5, 10 and 5. Each time they returned to practice, the playground grew richer in color, yellows deep into lemon, blues to sapphire, reds to cherries. Jaya's shirt brightened from gray to purple. Omar's cap turned from dusty brown to bright green. For the 4th round, the seesaw board red challenge cleared. A pathway appeared. Tiles that looked like notebook paper stretched toward a glowing doorway shaped like a school door. Wait, Zane said. He looked back at the learning lands. The windmill spun steadily. The word woods leaves fluttered like applause. The bridge gleamed in the sun. He looked at Luma. Do I have to say I love homework now? Luma laughed, a tinkling sound like ice cubes in a glass of lemonade. You don't have to love every part of learning. But you can love what learning does. You can choose small steps. You can choose to notice when your mind grows. I can do that, Zane said softly. I can try. He hugged Jaya and Omar and they stepped together onto the notebook path. The door opened into Zane's bedroom. The light inside was afternoon gold. He could hear Nana humming downstairs. On his desk, his math book waited, but now it looked less like a mountain and more like a trail. Thank you, he said to Luma. Remember your sparks, she said. Her glowing ears flickered like candles in a window. Curiosity, practice, patience, courage. They're not only for magic lands. They're for your everyday. She trotted backward toward the fading doorway. One more thing, she called. Play is important too. Your brain needs both. Balance is the real magic. The door closed gently and Zane was home. He ran downstairs. Nana, he shouted, almost tripping on the last step. Can you help me set a timer for 10 minutes? I want to try a new homework plan. 10 minutes of work, 5 of play like sets in soccer. Nana raised an eyebrow in happy surprise. That sounds wise, she said. Little bites make a big meal. They set the timer. Zane opened his math book. He crossed out I hate school at the top of a messy page where he had scrawled it days ago and wrote, I can grow, instead. He did the first 2 problems, then jogged out to the backyard for 5 minutes of dribbling around plastic cones. He felt the way angles mattered when he curved the ball. Math was in his feet. Back at the table, he read a page about how butterflies use their proboscis to sip nectar. Felt like a secret whispered by the world. He jotted a sentence in his own words. The lantern patch on his backpack warmed like a quiet nod. On Monday morning, Zane walked into Ms. Rivera's classroom. The windows let in bright light and the whiteboard shone. Ms. Rivera wore her usual colorful scarf and a smile. Good morning, team, she said. Zane raised his hand. Miss Rivera, sitting still is hard for me. But I've been trying something at home, 10 minutes of work, 5 minutes of movement, repeat. Could I use that plan here too, like during independent practice? Miss. Rivera's smile widened. What a thoughtful plan. Yes, we can build in brain breaks. That's smart work, not just hard work. During math, when Zane started to fidget, he asked for a 2-minute stretch break. He stood, stretched his arms like a tall tree, and sat back down. The numbers on the page looked friendlier afterward, like puzzle pieces waiting to click. At recess, he told Jaya and Omar about the balance plan. We can make a homework and play club, he said. We'll meet at the park. 10 minutes of homework, then we play tag or soccer for 5, then back again. We'll help each other. I like it, Jaya said. I learn better when we're together. Omar nodded. Me too. And playing after makes my brain feel fresh. That afternoon, they tried it under a shady tree. Miss. Rivera passed by on her way home and waved. You're turning practice into a game, she said. That's the spirit. Days rolled by like bright marbles. Zane learned to see education everywhere in soccer, angles, force, and teamwork mattered. In cooking with Nana, fractions and timing mattered. In building a paper plane, design and testing mattered. In reading a comic, inference and sequence mattered. In helping a neighbor carry groceries, kindness and community mattered. One evening, Zane sat at his desk with the compass in his hand. The arrow pointed straight to his math book. He grinned. I get it, he whispered. Education is like this compass. Points me toward what I need next. He still loved running in the park, the taste of cold water after a game, the slap of high fives. He still didn't love every worksheet. But when he felt that old grumble, homework is boring, he pictured the number bridge and felt the steady drum of skip counts in his chest. When sitting felt hard, he took a smart break and came back. When he was stuck, he remembered the science windmill change one thing, try again. On a rainy Saturday, Nana brought him hot cocoa with a cloud of marshmallows. How goes it, Captain? She asked. Zane smiled into the steam. Hard work is like training for a big match. Pays off. And learning is everywhere, like air. You don't always notice it, but you need it for everything you want to do. Nana tapped the compass. Your grandpa would have loved that. Later, Zane visited the library. He picked a book about real foxes and another about inventors. As he checked them out, he thought he saw, for just a second, a tiny glow at the end of an aisle, a flick of candlelight behind a shelf. A little fox-shaped shadow rippled and vanished. Thanks, Luma, he whispered. On Monday, Ms. Rivera asked the class to write a short paragraph. What is one way you've grown this year? Zane wrote, I used to say, I hate school and homework is boring. I wanted to skip school and play all day. But I learned that learning is like a secret map that shows up everywhere on the field, in the kitchen, at the park. When I work in small steps and take smart breaks, I can do hard things. Practice and patience make me better. Education helps me reach my goals and make the world brighter. I think I don't hate school. I hate feeling stuck. Now I know how to get unstuck. He turned it in and felt a glow in his chest, warm as a sunny window. On the way home, he kicked a pebble down the sidewalk again, but this time he smiled at each little tap, counting the steps under his breath like a quiet drumbeat. 2, 4, 6, 8. Park still called his name, and he answered with a grin. He would play hard and study smart. He would be curious, practice, be patient, and be brave. And in the sky above, for anyone looking closely, a small shape flickered, like the tip of a bright tail signing a tiny message in the air. Well done.